My dear pearls, how is everyone doing today? I hope you're doing great. Such an amazing day and such a beautiful weather we have here today. It's very kind of gloomy. I don't like the word, but it is quite dark. It's raining and it's a long awaited rain actually. I'm so happy it is raining. It's such a beautiful day today. I hope everyone is doing great. I hope everyone had a great weekend, an amazing Christmas time. Merry Christmas to everyone who's celebrating Christmas. I hope you had a great gathering with your families. You enjoyed that time together. It's always amazing when we are able to spend time together with our families. You know, being grateful and knowing that we have this support system in our life, this family around us, is a very, very important thing to have, and to always remember that we have this as an option in our life. We have these people around us as an option in our life. So always remember that, and remember that your loved ones are always there to support you. Even if sometimes it kind of feels differently, but trust me, they're always there to support you. So having said that, I mean, today really was about giving and about loving and about being there for one another. And I'm happy because today I was able to be there for someone who was very, very close to me. And this for me is something that I cherish, that I actually have that power, that I actually have that will and that strength to be there for people who might need me in their life. And I hope everyone in this life can have this strength and can have this power, and also can be vulnerable when they need to be vulnerable, and can reach out whenever they need to reach out. So I don't know why I started my life today with this, but this is the feeling that I felt like I really wanted to share this. So I hope that, having said that, it gives you some insight as to, some of the things that sometimes we take for granted in our lives. And it's amazing to remember to be grateful for those things that we usually take for granted. So having said that, I want to talk about the program, or the topic that I have for today. And before I start and dig deeper in that, I just want you to know we're going to be together for, like as usual, between 45 minutes and 60 minutes, depending on the stamina. And these topics are quite, really interesting topics to me. That's why I choose them. That's why I want to tell you about them. And they've taken me from places in my life to really way much better places. So that's why I like to share them with you. And today's topic is about taking decisions, or the decision-making process that we go through in our lives, and how it changes from one time or from one season in our life to another season in our life. So this is going to be the topic today. But I also have an invitation at the end of the life. So if you stick till the end, you will know what the invitation is all about. So I encourage you to do that. Now, having said that, let's go and dig deeper in that topic. And before we do, I have two things I want to tell you. First, as you notice, I'm wearing yellow. I was looking up the color yellow previously. And because in our culture, where I come from, yellow is most of the time associated with jealousy. But I've never believed that yellow has got anything to do with jealousy. I don't know why socially in where I come from, it's associated with jealousy. So I was kind of intrigued, and I was curious to know what the color for hope and happiness was. So I researched it. Guess what? It's yellow. And I had the feeling that it was going to be yellow. And this is why today I'm wearing yellow. And the reason why I wanted to focus on hope and happiness, for me, they come together. I mean, like they tag along, they are associated to each other. Hope and happiness, kind of like they're like salt and pepper. They come together, right? So this is why today I wanted to wear yellow, because I want to talk about a topic that in my life, it took me from, I don't want to say a dark place, because I wasn't really in a dark place. I was just kind of in a lost place. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what was happening. And I was quite young. But I also truly believe that that decision making, or that decision that I took back then, it changed my life, and it made me more hopeful, and it made me even a happier person, and it made me see things in a different way. So having said that, let me tell you the story. So back in 1997 and 1998 to 1999, actually 1998, 1999, I had just graduated from college. I was like full of life, and I wanted everything in life. And I was also in a really, like previously, in a very serious relationship, but also kind of a toxic relationship. And it was weighing me down, and I was young, and I didn't know really what to do. I didn't know what was happening. I was totally, madly, completely in love, as you are when you are in that phase of your life, and you kind of like see life in pink, and it's all a fairy tale, but we have to go through the process, right? So back then, I was in that relationship, and something happened, and we kind of broke up. He wasn't living in the same country at that time, and things that happen in life. But that's not the story. The story is what happened next, is who I ended up with next. So instead of me learning from that experience, or understanding how that experience worked for me, and maybe taking the goods and the good side and the bad side, and understanding everything about it, I just put myself in another like relationship that was even worse, that was even more toxic, with probably the most, like the not scariest, I don't like to use the word scariest, but maybe dangerous is the right word, person that I met. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't just be with someone who is dangerous just like that, right? Because most of the time when we meet people in our life, we kind of go through a process of getting to know them. So you don't really know that person straight away, especially when we are young. When we become older, and when we cross those experiences in our lives, it becomes easier for us to, when we meet people, understand them more, be able to read them more, be able to understand their like sometimes their true essence more and faster, because of all the experience that we go through. So when I was at that age, I didn't really have that experience. I didn't really know much about, life and people, and how to read people, and how to understand people, and how they think, and how they live, and what are the things that people usually say that mean a lot of things, that are undercover. So I didn't know, and I had to go through it. I had to go through the whole experience to understand. So when I chose that person, kind of a rebound to my previous, like really very lovey-dovey experience, it was quite nice at the beginning, and it was like he was really thoughtful and very nice and everything amazing. Until one day I started realizing that there was like a huge burden on me. I felt like I was doing everything. Like I was kind of, the whole relationship was on me. Like I was the person who is responsible for the whole thing. And one way or another, actually, I was. When I thought about it later and I looked at how things were going in my life at that time, I was the whole relationship. And that person was there kind of to take me through a very specific experience that I needed to go through in order to learn a lot of things. And one of the most important things that I had to learn during that time was understanding people and really having a different way in looking at things and even looking at people and understanding where they come from and who they are and how they act and all these details. Now you may think, what does this have to do with your decision-making process and the topic that we want to talk about today? Well, because having gone through that, like even more toxic relationship with that person, I really had to make a very, very, very difficult decision to end that relationship. And when I say difficult, I don't mean difficult because I was so hooked up to that person or because I was like, I didn't know how to live without him, or I couldn't take that decision because I was so in love. No. That decision for me was really very difficult at that time because I was afraid. I was so scared of that person. I was so scared. I had zero idea what that person could do if I just leave, you know? So for me, taking that decision then and going through that process then was so scary, but I knew deep down inside that I had to take that step and I had to leave that person for my life to become better, for my life to change the way I wanted it to change. Because believe it or not, I was planning to spend my life with that person. We were even, I was buying stuff for the house, for a house that we didn't even have then. I was totally invested in it. I invested money, I invested time, I invested feelings, I invested everything about me. And by the way, I want you to know something. This is a story that maybe one or two people in my entire life know about this story. So me being today in a position where I took a very conscious decision to share this story with you, this is something very, very huge, and it's very big. And this is why this topic is important. This is why the story is important. First, because at that time I really had to take a very difficult decision, and my decision-making process then was completely different than it is today. And the second reason is me taking a very conscious and very responsible decision to actually share this exact story with you today. Because that story is what changed things for me in the process of how I make my decisions. It was the trigger, it was the initial step towards a very long process since then to become the person that I am today with my decision-making process that I go through today and how I do it today. So telling you this story and me deciding that I'm going to leave that person, I'm going to leave that guy, and I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to tell you how difficult that decision was, because when I did this and I left him, I was so afraid that he would harass me one way or another. And in our culture, this is something big, that he would tell about me, that he would disgrace my name and, let my parents know stuff. And these are huge things in our culture, maybe also in other cultures. So for me, knowing that this might happen and still taking that very courageous decision at the time is a big step. The only thing that is now completely different is that when I took that decision, I did it while I was scared. I did it not knowing what was going to be the result. I did it hoping, hoping that things will fall in the right place for me, and just praying to God to help me throughout the process. But I didn't really go through a proper process of making that decision. I didn't go through a very specific process. It was just a spur of an emotional situation. It was a result of me becoming frustrated, of me being scared, me not knowing what's going to happen. These were at the basis of me taking that decision. And the reason why I'm saying this now is because I want just to highlight the fact that when we are going through a very important decision-making process in our life, or if we have a very important decision to make in our life, basing that decision-making process on shaky grounds is going to make the result of that decision shaky as well. And it's gonna put us as human beings in a state where we would always be anxious because we have no clue what we just did or what we are about to do. So we are just, testing grounds. It's like you're doing an experiment and you don't know what the result is going to be. And you're always like either scared or anxious, or you don't know. You're in the unknown. And the unknown is most of the time like one of the most major reasons for people having fear is the unknown, because we're like, we don't know. So basing decisions on this, or maybe not even basing decisions on this, sometimes we also take decisions just because they happen, like things happen and we just decide, and that also is something that it has its ramifications, to say the least, when we are doing that decision-making process with no real or proper foundation. Because just like everything else in life, everything that we want to do in our lives, strong foundations are at the basis of things that will be successful. Strong foundations will hold. They will hold when we go through hardships. They will hold when we go through issues in our lives. They will hold when we reach a point we have to make drastic decisions for ourselves in our lives, and even sometimes for people around us. So anything that we base on shaky grounds will have shaky results, will put us in a place where we will always be anxious about the results because we don't know, because there's no real strong foundation to the process or to the decision or to the choice that we make. So having said that, and telling you this story is a strong foundation to explain to you how that story changed me, how that decision-making process that kept me anxious for 1 year. Like, I made that decision, I left that guy, and I was so worried about what he was going to do, the things that because he was also threatening me. So on top of all of this, and I even left the country at that time. So when I left the country, the first thing that I was worried about was how to go back and visit my family in my home country. And I stayed away before the first visit back to my home country. I stayed away for 6 months. And then after 6 months, I gathered, I don't know from where, but I just gathered a lot of courage and a lot of insistence. Like, I was so insisting, and I was so determined that I was going to go back home and leave fear behind me. And, I took a decision in my mind that I'm not going to let that person scare me from going to my own home country to visit my own parents and to visit my own friends. And I did that, but God knows that I was so scared when I traveled back home. And the reason why I was scared is because that person had the ability, because of the line of work that he does, he was able to, if he wanted to, or if he knew that I was going, to pick me up from the airport, and I could disappear. Like, he had that as an option if he wanted to do it, or if he knew that I was going. Or all of that was something that I was thinking of all the time, or cooking in my head all the time, because I let that fear control me at that time. And that's another decision that I had to go through. The decision of deciding whether I'm going to let that fear take over. Am I going to let that fear control me? Am I going to let that fear... It's not controlling me. It was controlling my whole life. And again, all of this, I am telling you, you would feel like, wow, what a conscious woman, like taking those decisions. And I was way much younger than now. But I tell you, at that time, it wasn't me doing a conscious decision. It was me just following a flow, or it was me going through my own process internally and following my own emotions. So if my emotions were like fear or a worry, my decision would be based on that. And if I was feeling okay and fine, my decision would be based on that. But today I want to tell you that this is not how I do my decision, or how I make my decisions today. It used to be a decision based, like a decision making process that was solely based on my emotions and the flow of things around me. It was never something that I would consciously do. And this is the first thing that I want to tell you. That's the first thing that today is about. Like, this live is about that very specific thing, which is being aware. So that's the one thing that today I want you to remember about your decision-making process. And it's, for me, the most efficient and effective way to make any decision that we are subjected to in our life, or that we subject ourselves to in our life. Making a decision while we are completely and utterly aware. So for me, awareness is the number one thing that will make our decision-making process efficient and effective. And when I say aware, what do I mean? So I feel like I'm sitting with you having coffee and we're just chit-chatting. So today, or every day, we go and we live, right? So we go through our life. There's a process that we go through, which is called life, right? We are born, we come here, we grow up and we become older, and then things happen and we go with that flow. So the flow is basically our life. And most of the time, we go through life just as someone who's kind of like watching a movie. We go with, and we just live it. Like, the simplest way putting it, we just go through life by living it. No questions asked, no research is done, no wondering, no wanting to know more, no curiosity, we just let it happen. But then, when we go through struggles, we start wondering, why are these things happening? And this is when we start questioning, like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why am I putting myself in this situation? Or why does this person treat me this way? And why do I treat that person that way? So when we start asking those questions and we stop just going with that flow, this is what I mean by awareness. Awareness is us wanting or knowing really what is behind everything that we go through in our life. And the decision-making process is a very similar thing. Because when you are making a decision in your life, it's like you are not questioning, but you are making a choice for yourself in your life. You're not just letting life happen to you. You're not just letting things happen to you. You are now the one taking control by making those choices and by taking those decisions. So when you become in control, and when you stop letting things just happen for the sake of happening in your life, you start wanting to make those decisions. You want to know and you want to be aware of that process, and you want to be making those decisions consciously, not just finding out that, oh my God, I just made that decision. No, this should not be a way for us to go through life, by finding out that, I just made the decision out of nowhere with no foundation, nothing. There's just a decision that had been done in your life. Who made that decision? Did you consciously think about it, sat there and weighed it and, thought about it and then consciously made that decision? Or did it just happen? So this is the first thing that I wanted to talk about today, and that I want to highlight today, is when we are going through phases in our lives, and we all go through them, we all go through ups, we all go through downs in our lives. I mean, life is not just a straight line. It's not a stagnant process. Life is an up and down journey. It's a fluctuating journey. It's a wavy journey. It's an ocean. Sometimes it's smooth and easy, and sometimes there are storms. When we go through the storms, this is when we are faced with the most important decision-making processes or decisions that we need to do for ourselves in our lives. We don't usually, we are not usually subjected to making like very, very drastic and life-changing decisions when our life is an easy sail and a smooth going sail, right? The decisions that we need to make in our lives, they always come when there is turbulence. They always show up when things are happening, like on major levels in our lives. So, because this is when the decision-making process happens most of the time, and because it is such a life-changing experience when you take that decision and you actually follow through, you want to be really aware of everything related to the decision that you are going to make, everything related to the choices that you have. So awareness and being conscious is the number one trick when you are faced with a major decision making process in your life, or a major choice, or something that you really have to decide on for yourself in your life, or even for others. It depends on really the situation. But the idea is, when you want to make a decision, you want to be totally, completely aware and conscious. And to be aware and conscious, you will go through a very detailed, I'm going to give you all the steps. I'm going to share with you all my learnings from not just that decision that I took back in 1999. I will tell you how I don't want to say perfected the process, because perfection does not exist, but for me it works. The way I have been doing it for a while works for me. And if it works for me, it can work for others as well, because it's a simple process. Sometimes also simple is easy to say, or easier said than done, but that also is a decision. And that also is you being aware and you being in the proper mindset. So having said that, and before moving to give you what I believe are the steps that can help any person really make the best decisions for them. Because obviously what works for you as a decision doesn't necessarily work for me, because will definitely not work for me, because you are not me and I am not you. We are in completely different places. We have completely different experiences. We are completely different people. So definitely what works for you as a decision does not work for me. But as a process, what works for me works for anyone, because it's a process. It's like a recipe. Right? So the recipe is, if we follow it, it works. That cake will come out of the oven with that flavor, with that color, with that shape, if we follow the recipe properly. Okay? That color, that shape, and that taste is really related to the situation itself. Let me put it in a different way, or not necessarily in a different way, just explain it maybe differently. using the cake. So what I mean by you and me are different, even if we are faced by the same situation. If we go through the same process, the result that's going to work for you will work for you because this is who you are and this is how your life is. The result that I will get is not going to be the same, but it will work for me because this is my life and this is who I am. And that result will work for me because of the steps that I took. I took them using my own experience, using my own life, using my own knowledge. And you will do the same. But the steps are the same. They're not going to change. The results that we get or the information that we get from each one of these steps is going to be different because it's related to who you are, the situation you are in, and who I am and the situation that I am in. Just the process is the same. Same as the recipe. The recipe is the same. You're going to taste that cake in a different way. I'm going to taste it because we have simply different taste buds. It's as simple as that. But the cake and the recipe, we followed it exactly the same way. Okay? So this is basically the idea of having that process. Now, before I give you the process, the one thing that I want also to highlight, and this is something that will help any person who is going through a process of right now, like in this current season in their life, they're going through a process of making important decisions or making major changes for who they are or for themselves in their life, and they want to know how, to make that decision. I want to encourage you to do one thing. And by the way, this is one of the main reasons why today's topic is about making decisions. Because not lately, I was in that process and I needed to make a very important decision for me in my life. And for me to make that decision before I did the steps that I'm going to explain to you and that I'm going to give you, before I did all of that, I looked back at my life and I kind of consulted all the situation that I was in my whole life, through my life, and I digged and I tried to understand how every time I was going through, like I was making decisions in my life, how I was making them. So I went through that process and I studied, basically. I studied how I did my decisions back then. And this is how I realized that at one point in time in my life, I was literally doing all my decisions based on my emotions. There was no decision-making process that was actually based on real data and proper understanding and proper awareness and proper consciousness. They were either results of like a reaction to my emotional state, or just a reaction to the flow of life, or just happening because they were happening. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I'll go this way because this is the way that's in front of me, without even consciously thinking of, is this really the way that I should go through? So that's the second thing that I want to talk about today. And that's the second thing that I want you to remember when you are doing major decisions in your life. And when you do this exercise, by the way, you do it once, and once you do it, you will see and you will understand your pattern, and you will understand how going through your own life experience and your own life decisions, that the decisions that you took through your life, and understanding how you did them, what were the criteria that you were following, you will understand your pattern, and you will know And you will also understand what are the things that you learned from that pattern. Like, and I want you to also focus on how that decision-making process that you have lived using throughout your life, how it evolved, because it did not stay the same. For sure, it did not. There's no way it would have stayed the same, because you're gaining experience. You're becoming an adult. You're becoming more aware, even if you're not like consciously doing it, but you are. That awareness is developing in you. That information is coming to you, and it's going in there. It's not in your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind is taking in all that information, and your subconscious mind is always involved in every single thing that happens or that you do throughout your life. So it's filling up this information, and this awareness is there. You're just not tapping into it because you're not consciously doing it. And when you go through, or you just look at how you had been doing your decisions, what are the things that you were looking at? How you were going through that process? When were you going through that process? Why were you making decisions at each specific time in your life? What were the triggers? Who was involved? How did you make that decision? The how, like the two most important things that you want to look at when you are going through that remembrance, or going through that memory lane, is why you were making those very specific decisions and how you were going about that process. So what was the trigger for you to make any decision that you made in your life, especially the major ones? What were the triggers? And then how did you make that decision? What made you, not what, like how, what's the process? What are the steps that you followed in order to come up with this decision and not a different decision in your life? And those decisions and the whole process, this is your learning journey. This is your school. This is how you go about life to learn. Your decisions are like your classes. Like every time you make a decision, it's like you're graduating to another level. Every time you change something in your life, and usually change happens because we make decisions, because we make choices. Change doesn't just happen. It happens because we make a very specific choice. Sometimes we do it very consciously, but sometimes also we do it so unconsciously to a point that we don't even realize that we made that change. Then later on, like for example, now I'm telling you to go back in that memory lane of yours and find out how you went about taking those decisions in your life. You will see and you will learn so much about the changes that you have probably maybe took for granted, just like we take for granted some of the things that we have in our lives, So going through that process and understanding what were the major decisions that we did, why did we need to make those decisions? Why did we need to have those very specific choices to choose from? And then how did we end up making that decision and not a different one? So this is for you to be aware of your own process. how you did it so far. And again, now you have an awareness. Now you are more aware. So these 2 points, when like making a decision when you are completely aware, and then going through your memory lane and understanding how you have been doing decisions throughout your life, what were the triggers and how you did that, how you took those decisions or made those specific choices. These 2 go hand in hand, because this will bring you that awareness that you need when you are today making your decisions. I like to call them, today we make conscious decisions. We make aware decisions. We take like conscious steps towards the results that we want to have. It's no longer us, once we start this process, it's no longer us going with the flow of things. Because we are now very alert to what is happening, or to the things that we want for ourselves, or the things that we want to happen for us. And this is where that awareness is very important, because this is what will lead us to make things happen for us. I always say, when we are aware, we are in the right direction to make things good for us. Because no one who is aware, and think about it, like, would anyone consciously or so aware, or someone who is really very conscious, would they want bad things to happen for them in their lives? Like, would they, a conscious person or an aware person, would they want to be sad? Would they want to be stressed? Would they want to be overwhelmed? Would they want to be bad people? Would they want to have bad energy? Think about it. I mean, just logically, just with pure logic. Why would anyone want to be bad or unhappy or sad or, depressed or stressed or overwhelmed? No one wants to be that in full awareness. Like, I am very conscious that this is exactly what I want to be. No. This happens, like, we allow this to happen because of not being aware. And the minute we start being aware, we make a shift for ourselves. And I'm not saying, I want you to know something. Sometimes, sometimes even when I hear myself talking, I'm thinking, yeah, but I mean, you've been through so much to get here. And that's true. That's true. I have been through so much to get here. And I'm pretty sure every single one out there have been through a lot throughout their lives to get to wherever they are today. Even if you are someone who's today looking at me and watching me and wanting to do things that made me get here and made me like become that person who's more assertive, that person who is happy to share and who wants to help, I have been through a bit to get here. So yes, I get it. Yes, I get it. But that's also another decision that we want to make for ourselves. Do we want to stay stuck, or do we want to be that person who just takes decisions as they come and we just follow the flow, or we just follow our emotions? Is this who we want to be, or do we want to actually be that person who is aware of that decision making process and who knows exactly how to decide on things and how to make decisions in their lives? So that's another decision that we want to make. And now I'm going to give you some tips. So maybe you can actually make that decision to become that person who is more aware, to become that person who wants to go through the process of their life and understand how they have developed or how they have changed from, when they were way much younger to now, or when they, I don't want to say younger because it's not about the age, it's really about your experience, right? So you could have experienced so much in such little time, and sometimes some people experience so little in such a huge lifetime, right? So it really depends on what you've been experiencing in your life, and going through that experience and looking at everything that you've been through, how you were making your decisions, and what were the triggers for you at any given point in your life or in your experience to want to make a decision, and see how that process has evolved from the beginning until maybe now watching me. Even now, when you've decided to watch me, you decided to spend that 1 hour with me. You took, I hope, a very conscious decision to watch this. So, having said that, now I really want to give you those tips. I want to give you the tips that will help you in any decision-making process. If you follow those steps, they will make that decision-making process much easier and much more efficient. Your results will become more efficient. And the first thing that we want to remember when we are making a decision is to try as much as possible not to let stress get the best of us, and not to let stress be in control. Now you can tell me, but Maysoon, we are living in stress all the time, and stress is one of the major things that we go through. Everybody goes through stress. Yes, that's true. And there are solutions. I like to think that everything has a solution. I am that person. I'm that person who will always give you that hope that there's always a solution. No problem cannot be fixed. This is me. That's who I am. And that's what I want to give you. So the first step is or how not to let stress get the best of you. When you feel that stress, take a break. Go for a walk. Do some breathing exercises because they will relax you. They will ground you. Go out in nature. Nature is such an amazing place to be. Try it. Just try it. Nature will always kind of hold you. I personally feel that when I go out in nature, it's like this is where I can totally and always find love, and hope. So go out, take a walk, do some yoga, do some exercise. Just don't let that stress be the boss when you are making a decision. And I say don't let that stress be the boss at any given point in time, not only when you are making a decision or when you are going through a very major decision-making process, but specifically for the decision-making process. Step number 1, don't let stress get the best out of you. Step number 2, you want to give yourself some time. So don't rush yourself into making a decision. Take your time. Take your time. And when you take your time, when you do it really consciously, this is part of awareness, by the way, because you're taking your time, you are stressed, but you know you are stressed, you decide that you're not going to let stress take over, and you go and for a walk, or you do yoga, or you do your breathing exercises. You take your time. Don't follow your emotions. Let it set in. And then after you take your time, and by taking your time, you will be able to weigh your pros and your cons. What will happen? Like, what are the positives of any decision that I'm going to make? This is a positive and these are the negatives. And then you go through different choices, not just one. Like when you are when you're making a choice, or when you're making a major decision in your life, it's not like you're going to have, it's either this or that. These are like it's what I have today and the decision is this. No. You know, where you are today, your decision could be like 10 choices. So how do you know which one to follow, which one to take? You weigh the pros and the cons of every single one of them. And once you do that, you also want to think about the goals. You want to know, where do you want to be when you take that decision? What's the result that you want to get? So not just these are the pros and the cons. You want to understand these pros and these cons, where are they going to take you? You see how aware this process is? That's the awareness I'm talking about. So after weighing, then you know, or you find out where those pros and cons of each decision are going to take you. So of each option, of each choice that you have, this choice is going to take me to point A, this choice is going to take me to point B, and this choice is going to take me to point C. And also you want to make a choice whether you want to be in point A or point B or point C. But then going through this whole process is what will help you make that choice. Is this where you want to be? No. I'll probably take this, solution or this decision because the end result is what I want to get. So that's when you are thinking about your goals and your values and where you want to get. And you want to consider all the possibilities. So these are the tips. I hope you're writing them down. And if you're not, maybe take a pen and write them down. Number 1, don't let stress take over. Okay? And how to do that? Just walk, do some yoga, do some breathing exercise. Go to nature. And number 2, do this with a proper time. Give yourself the luxury of time. Okay? Number 3, weigh your pros and your cons. And number 2, keep your goals in mind. Remember where you want to be. Because when you remember when you want to be, then you will, when you do the weighing of the pros and the cons, and you remember where you want to be, this is why you will have so many possibilities. That's number 5, is consider all the possibilities that you can come up with when you are doing any decision, when you're taking any decision. So consider all the possibilities. And then, if you know someone, or if there's someone around you in your life who has been through a similar situation, because remember, nobody has the same situation exactly, but maybe something similar. Talk about it to those people. Ask around, see what they think, because sometimes we are too subjective, and the solution could be something that, because we are so much into it, it could be something that we could easily miss, because we are so subjectively diving into this. So talk it out with someone who has been there, see what they have been through, and maybe that will highlight some things to you that you would want to, maybe follow. And I also find it very useful to journal. Some people call it a diary. For me, it's journaling. And journaling is basically always you validate a lot of things when you write. Sometimes we talk, but talking, it just vanishes. It doesn't stay, right? Because it goes. There's nothing to go back to when we're just talking, right? Journaling, on the other hand, because you're writing, and for me, it helps a lot even when there's stress involved, because you're not letting those ideas just eat up in your brain. You actually just put them out there. When you write them down, they will just go out, and there will be an easier flow of ideas in your brain because everything now is out, and it becomes more conscious when you are writing. So keep a diary, write everything down so that you don't forget, and so you have some tangible evidence and tangible information and data to base your decisions on. It helps when you are weighing your pros and your cons. How are you going to weigh your pros and your cons? Write them down, right? So that's number 7. Number 8, a lot of the time when we have a major decision to make in our lives, because we have lots of people who are also part of our life, we are worried or we are afraid of how our decisions may affect other people. And a lot of time because we don't know, again, it's the unknown, there's fear there. We are afraid of what those people's reactions are going to be, kind of like exactly what happened to me, right? I was afraid of how that guy was going to react to my decision. So when we are going through that decision, that's very important decision, consider those people and try to put yourself in their shoes, because you know those people, they are part of your life. Try to put yourself in their shoes and see things from their perspective to understand how they might react to the different possibilities that you have. Remember, now you don't have just one decision, you have so many different possibilities. So when you are considering how those possibilities are going to affect those people in your lives, putting yourself in their shoes and considering also all those possibilities will help you make an even more conscious decision. Okay? And the last but not least step, which is as important as all of the other steps, because it's the one step that might make you want to go through the whole process all over again, which is basically rethinking of all the options that you have. And most of the time we do this subconsciously because things happen while we are going through the decision-making process. Sometimes new circumstances show up, new information shows up, new issues rise, So when all of this happens while we are making our decision, these will affect that decision because there's additional information, there's additional, it's like somebody came and just put a pinch of salt in the recipe that we are using for our cake. And this could change the whole thing, right? So we want to rethink. And when you rethink your options, that means that you will go through those 9 steps all over again. And let me repeat them for you, because this is the juice of this life today. Step number 1, when you are making, this is for me the most conscious decision-making process that you can go through, and that will have, for me, the most desired results. Don't let stress get over you. And how to do that? Just, if you feel stressed, take a break, go out in nature, take a walk, do breathing exercises, do yoga, do meditation, whatever works for you, really. Doesn't have to be something like what I'm telling you. Maybe just listen to music. Maybe dance. I don't know, whatever works for you. Anything that will make you de-stress. Okay, I don't know if that's even a word. All right, so that's number one. Number two, take your time. Take your time. Don't rush your decisions. Relax and take your time. Number three, weigh your pros and your cons. And number four, consider all the possibility. Number four, go through your pros and your cons and remember what are the goals that you are aiming for. What are the results that you want to get to? That's number four. Number five is consider all the possibilities. Because the possibility, once you put the pros and the cons and you have your values in place and your goals in place, you will see that you will have different possibilities for the decision. You can, like I said, you can take road A, road B, road C, and road D. And you can come up with so many different possibilities for the choices that you have. You have different choices, then you will need to make a decision when you need to make a decision. And number six is talk about it to someone who has been there, who has been in a similar situation, not exactly there, because nobody can be exactly there, but someone who's been in a similar situation. See how they did it. How they did it. Kind of like what I'm doing with you. I'm sharing with you how I did it. So talk about it. And number seven, wow. Write it down. Keep a diary. Keep a diary of the process. Keep a diary of all the steps that you are going through and also the results of everything and how you are feeling. Those emotions are very important in guiding you. And just taking them out and putting them on paper, it also de-stresses you, by the way. All right? Number eight, remember, if there is someone who you know can be affected by your decision, be aware of that. Put yourself in their shoes. See how they might react. Because sometimes, we kind of think that people will react in a specific way because this is how we see them. But we never think of putting ourselves in their shoes and understanding things from their own perspective. So when we do that, we might come up with completely different views and completely different results. Because they don't necessarily see things the way that we see them about them. If it makes sense. But I think it does. I'm pretty sure you understand what I mean. So that's number 8. And once you do that, by the way, because you wanna be able to include that person when your decision is done, right? Because that person is going to be affected. So when you go and you put yourself in their shoes, you understand how they might take that decision, then you will know how to approach that situation and how to tell them and what needs to be told and what needs to be kept. There's a whole planning around it. And number 9, and that's the most important thing, is when you reach that point where, okay, this is it, and something comes up, you might want to reconsider everything that you have just done, and maybe you will stick to the first decision that you came up with. But maybe also you will find out along the way that, oh no, now because this happened, I have to take a different route and I have to go through a different way to make up my mind and to take that very important decision. Oh my God. I've been talking for 1 hour and 10 minutes. I hope from the bottom of my heart that this has been so valuable to you. I felt really, really happy sharing this information because it taught me a lot and it helped me a lot. And here now is my invitation to you, because I promised you I was going to send you an invite. So my invitation to you is, if today I was able to help you just this much, and if today I was able to trigger you also just this much, and you feel like you want to know more, you want to understand more, you want to be in that much more assertive place in your life, let me know. Let me know in the comments below, and write decision in capital. Write decision in capital. And by that, you're like telling me, Maysoon, I want to know more. I want to really understand all the steps and how you did it and how you went from where you were, because I was in a very lost place in my life, to where you are today, telling us and sharing with us all this information. So if at any point in this life you felt like there's this in this life, you felt like I triggered you and I raised that consciousness in you that I want to know more. I want to be able to make those decisions. I want to be able to understand, everything that Maysoon is talking about and how she did it. I want to be that. I want to know how to do that. Write decisions in the comment, or decisions, depends, in the comments below. And I will reach out to you. I will get in touch with you. And we can even set up a call where we can go together through what you are going through. You can tell me more about your current experience, the current season of your life, what is happening. And I can give you some pointers. And maybe also I can tell you how working with me looks like, and if that works for you, and we can put together a plan as to how we can get you from point A to point B. And you can make that decision. So if you are triggered and if you want that help and that support, and if you want me to be that guide for you, just write decision in the comments below, and I will be very happy to reach out to you. And with that being said, because today is the 26th of December, I want to wish you all a great end to this year. And remember, you have 5 more days, and maybe they might be the most important 5 days in your life, finishing this year and going to a new year, where maybe you want to make a major decision for yourself in your life and change something major in your life. And I'm not talking about resolutions here. I'm talking about you consciously wanting to become even a better version of you, or of who you already are. So with that, I'm going to leave you. And if you are that person, remember, decision in capital, and I'll reach out to you. And I want to wish you a great start to 2023 and a happy new year. And I'll see you again next week. Ciao, ciao.